Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between.
I don't know what this world is coming to.
And yes, indeed, do not adjust that dial. It's your boy, Sincere Young, and I am back after a brief hiatus, and I'm just get right into it. And to be honest, the reason for the hiatus has just been I've been struggling in life.
Bo ho ho, nigga.
No need to be concerned. You know, I'm not gonna do anything stupid. You know, if I ever turn up missing, I promise you I didn't commit suicide.
What did you say, nigga?
Nothing like that. But yeah, I've just been struggling in life, just with a lot in general. Two of the main things I would say would be work stress and financial stress. I find myself currently in a place career-wise where I am currently making my highest salary ever, but I remain living check to check. And that has been rather stressful, if you will, just for the simple fact of, well, a lot of it, honestly, to go back a little, going back to the divorce that I went through a few years back that unfortunately put me in some credit card debt. So having to kind of uproot my life and start all over when I didn't have that planned, if you will, put a massive financial strain on me. And then also in my day-to-day life, oh yeah, we're getting personal today, I can see. In my day-to-day life, I have 50-50 custody of my kids. But then from a financial standpoint, I take on the great majority of the responsibility of a lot of their activities. My kids play year-round basketball. They're very heavy in basketball. For any parents who have kids in sports, and not just kids in like rec league, but like kids in competitive club, high-end sports, it gets rather expensive. And on top of that, you know, kind of I take on the great majority of the responsibility from medical standpoints, insurance standpoints, bunch of stuff like that. I'm not looking for sympathy, but just that's the way the cookie crumbled with divorces and I don't know, being the man and making more money. The financial burden is on me. And then also, for those who don't know, my mother is disabled, and I basically take care of her too. She lives with me, and I take care of a lot of the financial things over there too as well. And going back to October of last year, I decided to be a first-time home buyer. And so I went out to buy my first home, and I needed a place that essentially had 4 bedrooms because I need a bedroom. You know, I need both of my kids. Both of my kids are, you know, my oldest is a teenager. My youngest is about to be a teenager. Like, they need their own spaces. They need their own room. And then, like I said, you know, I take care of my disabled mother, and so she needs her own room. So I ended up buying a house that, you know, had 4 bedrooms. And of course, anyone who knows anything about the housing market right now, the housing market isn't the greatest, but also in the same breath, the renters market isn't that great. And it was nearly just about impossible to find like a 4-bedroom apartment. So I found myself needing to have to move into home ownership to make sure that I can find something big enough for all of us. But then, kind of like I, you know, mentioned, the housing market isn't the greatest right now, and so that, you know, end up having to buy at a fairly high price. But it was something, you know, in my range. It was something that I did the numbers, crunched the numbers before, and was like, okay, I can do this. I can make this happen. But I also didn't anticipate Donald Trump becoming president and nuking the economy once again like he did in his first administration. So that wasn't something that I could have saw coming, and grocery prices and the cost of living just, getting increasingly more difficult to stay on top of. Now, outside of that, there's been a lot of house repairs I've ended up having to do. I had what is it, when the home inspection came in to kind of check everything before I purchased the house, and like the house passed everything. But then it was actually funny because it was like I bought the house, and then the week that I moved in, the garage went out. And then it was like, okay, cool, I got to deal with that. Then it was like a couple months later, the dishwasher went out. And then it was like, okay, cool, I got to, take care of that. Then I had a interesting situation where the stove went out. And it was like, dang, okay, the stove is bad too. And I had an electrician come out to check the stove. Electrician checked the stove. The stove was good. They checked the circuit breaker. They were getting inconsistent reports back from the outlet. They were getting inconsistent reports back from the outlet. So they went to check the circuit breaker, and they were like, hey, I don't know if you're aware of this, but like your circuit breaker is completely rusted from water damage.
Hey, boy, ain't no fucking way, boy. Boy, ain't no 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 way, boy.
And so they essentially had to take the panel off, and you could see that there had been water damage, and clearly water damage for some time, for the metal to have rusted. And essentially that damage ended up blowing out two of the circuit breakers, and one of those circuit breakers being, attached to the stove. So essentially the guy was like, you can switch out those two circuits, but you need to figure out where this water is coming from, and ensure that has been corrected, because, if you switch this out and you keep getting water damage, like it's, you're just going to keep, spinning your wheels in the mud, if you will. And so I had got a plumber to come out. A plumber did a freaking 2 to 3 hour inspection. They checked everything. They even cut holes into the drywall, and like they could find no evidence of a active water leak. And so the guy was like, hey, I feel bad that I don't have a clear and concise answer for you. And so the assumption that we came up with was that like a month or so prior, there had been some rain, and it was like, okay, maybe rain, when it rains, maybe water is somehow getting into the walls and getting down to the circuit breaker. And so it was like, should investigate looking into seeing if there's any damage with the roof. Since the place that I am in is attached to the unit next to it, there's an HOA that manages the roof, so I reached out to them for them to investigate. They looked into the roof, and they were like, hey, yeah, we do find damage on the roof. And they were like, you're actually in luck, because we're just in the process of scheduling to repair all the roofs in the whole entire neighborhood, if you will. So they were like, yeah, we'll get you queued up for that. So it was like, cool, perfect, got that situated. So then I end up hitting up the electrician, and went to get the entire circuit breaker replaced. It's a 6 to 7 hour job, because they gotta cut the power off, and then they have to cut the power off, and then they have to go into kind of disconnect and reconnect all the new stuff, if you will. And so the electrician's there. He's putting everything together, and he's on like hour 5 of installing this new circuit breaker. And mind you, live in AZ, it's hot as hell. Been in the house for 5 hours with zero electricity, because you got to cut the entire power off. He's 5 hours into the project, and my mom needed to use the restroom, and so since he was right there by that restroom downstairs, she decided to go upstairs to use that bathroom. And as luck would have it, and I guess it's a gift and a curse in life, she went upstairs, went to use the bathroom, she flushed the toilet, and water rushed into the circuit breaker, which then let us know that, the water wasn't coming from the roof. The water is actually coming from the restroom upstairs when you flush that toilet. So end up having to get another plumber out. That plumber ended up disconnecting that toilet from its base, if you will. Saw that the whatever the flange thing is that's connected under it had completely deteriorated. So essentially, yeah, every time you go to flush, water was overflowing into the floor, which was going into the wall, which was then damaging the circuit breaker. On top of that, the entire upstairs bathroom, there was mold all under the freaking towels. I ended up having to contact my insurance company. The insurance company, I'm going through that whole process of restoration. I'm kind of fighting with them because they're just moving at a snail's pace. And meanwhile, I'm short one bathroom, if you will. But all that fun stuff is going on. And so, trying to manage, maintain, get all that situated. And then, as luck would have it, as all that is going on, then one hot summer day, my HVAC unit went out.
God damn! God damn! God damn!
And I ended up having multiple people come out to check the HVAC unit, and essentially one of the pipes inside the HVAC unit outside basically exploded. All the Freon came out, and then essentially that unit outside needed to be replaced, but since the unit was from 2007, the Freon system that was used in it is actually no longer approved under the EPA. So not only did I have to replace that unit, but the unit up in the attic had to get replaced. So my entire HVAC unit had to get swapped out, which I'll just say is a 5-figure hit. So, kind of going back to what I said, about, struggling in life and financial stress, went through the divorce, racked up some credit card debt, needed to buy a house to, have the room for the family, the people that I take care of. And then it's just been bad luck after bad luck. And, as the saying goes, if it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. But again, the point of none of this is to look for sympathy or, oh, woe is me. It's just to kind of, that's what the fuck's been going on. And that's the reason why I have not been able to podcast, or that's one of the reasons why I haven't been able to podcast, because, I just been kind of struggling in life and just living check to check, while also, like I said, just like being in this situation where it's like I'm making the most money that I ever made, and it's like I'm still living check to check, and it's like every time I get a raise, something new fucking blows up or happens, and it's like, shit, I just can't catch a break. I just can't get ahead for some reason. Then honestly, on top of that, some other stuff that has been going on is I have been I've been struggling with my memory, with concentration, with fatigue. I know a lot of it comes from the stress of my very fast-paced job that I work at. I know a lot of the stressors come from that. But even beyond that, I decided to kind of see a doctor, and it's like I've been on a health improvement journey over the past few years, where kind of over the past 3 years, I identified I had diabetes, had to lose some weight, get some of my diet in order, fit some items with that, had severe sleep apnea, just a variety of high cholesterol, variety of things like that I had to clean up. And as I've improved that over the past few years, I was still like, I don't know, I'm still struggling with my memory and with my concentration and with a bunch of things. So I went to my primary care physician, who then ended up sending me over to like a mental health specialist, because I have a history of, anxiety, depression. And so worked with a mental health person to see, if anything from that may be causing it. And then that ended up leading to me being sent over to a psychologist to go a little deeper into what's going on. And basically, I did several different like multi-hour tests. And from those tests, I officially got diagnosed as having ADHD. And the other thing that was interesting that kind of came from those tests was I am possibly on the low scale or somewhere on the scale of autism. Would you look at that? I never knew I was autistic. But apparently, and the part of the reason why it's kind of hard to, I guess, diagnose later on in life is apparently autism nowadays is much easier to catch in children. You could notice certain weird identifiers that make them kind of stand out from other kids. And a bit of the challenge was they did send like a packet for my mom to kind of fill out, recalling like me as a child. But then kind of the answers that she gave didn't really align with autism. But in the same breath, the psychologist was like, you are 40 years old. And so like we're asking your mom to think back to something from quite a long time ago. So, who knows if, if she's recalling things correctly from, that long ago. But essentially, yeah, so it's easier to catch autism in children. And then kind of furthermore, as a adult, you kind of subconsciously learn how to navigate and move through the world, and you start subconsciously masking certain things that you may or may not be aware of. And so yeah, so basically that's the reason why she's like, yeah, you seem like you're right there on the low end scale. She's like, we're going to have you take some medication for the ADHD, see if that helps. And then like, if we really need to drill down this autism thing and figure out exactly what's, where you're at with that, we'll revisit that in like 6 to 9 months, if you will. But what has been interesting is since learning that, me being a person who likes to, read, research, look into things, I started looking into some of the autism traits. Just because, again, I never knew much about it. It had never crossed my mind. I always knew I was different, but like I never questioned of like, hey, maybe I'm autistic. But now that is something that's on the spectrum, I've been diving into doing some more research, and I have found some interesting stuff that does kind of would make sense in the way I am and the way I've navigated life and just a lot of things. And so like one thing that stood out was there's this thing called monotropism, and basically monotropism is a cognitive style which is particularly common in autistic and ADHD individuals, and it's characterized by a deep singular focus on one or a few subjects at a time, often resulting in a state of flow. And essentially, the monotropic mind focuses a large portion of its mental resources on one subject or a limited number of subjects. This focused attention can lead to a highly enjoyable, productive flow state where an individual is completely engrossed in a task or interest. It creates basically what's called attention tunnel, and basically that's a concentrated area of focus where related information is processed deeply while unrelated stimuli are easily filtered out. And that stands out to me because I have very much so grown up in that capacity where I have a handful of things that I am utterly obsessed with. And I deeply research and dive into those things, and I could tell you thousands of hours worth of information about those things. But a lot of other casual things I can't and won't pay any attention to. And yeah, that's one of the things that they kind of talk about with monotropism is that the people tend to have the ability to focus intensely and develop profound knowledge and high levels of proficiency in certain areas of interest. But then shifting attention away from a deeply engaged topic can be difficult and time consuming. It requires a significant effort to disengage from the current focus. I see that often because a lot of times I'll have something that I'm super hyper focused on. And when I go to communicate, have conversations with people, I can't get my brain around from that singular topic. And I just kind of want to talk about that one topic for hours on end. And if the person that I am talking to is not engaged in that and they want to talk about something else, or if they, talk about what I'm talking about for a little bit and then they switch over to something else, it is, I don't want to use the word triggering, but it is difficult for me because it's like my brain has so much energy on this thing. It's kind of hard to shift the momentum to something else. And I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of struggle with casual conversations with people, because typically, casual conversation, you call someone up on the phone and you just have an open-ended conversation. You talk about this and you talk about that. You just kind of sway between these different items. It's like my brain doesn't work like that. Like I need one topic that we're focusing all the energy on. And then once we're done with that one topic, after I'm done with that info dump, I kind of need to like not conversate anymore. I need to recover, if you will. And some challenges and misunderstandings, as they say, for monotropism is one is sensory overload. Unsafe or overstimulating environments can disrupt the flow state and trigger distress as the brain struggles to cope with too much sensory information. Some other factors are difficulty with transitions. Being pulled out of a monotropic flow state too quickly can lead to dysregulation and meltdowns or shutdowns. One of the other items is misclassifications. That's basically when a person is deep in a flow state. Others may mistakenly assume they are disengaged or not paying attention, which is often a misinterpretation of their cognitive style. And then there's this thing called monotropic split, when essentially when you're forced to attend to multiple competing demands in a polytropic manner, a monotropic mind can become overextended and experience a monotropic split, leading to burnout. And that one there really resonates with me and explains why I am mentally exhausted every day after I get done with work, because I find myself, again, my brain works better when I can hyper focus on one thing. And the work environment that I am in, it's a very fast paced environment where there's always 50 different things going on about 80 different topics. And so I always got to, spend a little time over here, hop over to this, hop over to that, go back to this, come over here to this, circle to that. Oh, let me follow up on this thing that hasn't moved forward in the past month. Oh, wait, 3 other new things just came in. Let me get those started. Like I'm constantly hopping all over the place, if you will. And so I find myself, by the time I'm done with work, I'm just mentally burned out and I'm overstimulated. And I have instances, and especially on Fridays a lot, I'll get done with work on Friday, and I work from home on Friday. So a lot of times I'll get done with work on Friday and I'll close my laptop and I will lay in bed, and I will just lay in bed and essentially wait until it's time to go to sleep and call it a day. Like I'll doom scroll through, Twitter and TikTok, and I'll literally sit in my room in silence, and like the sun will start going down and I don't even turn like the bedroom light on. I just sit in darkness, and I'm just, occupying my time and keeping my brain active enough to keep me awake until it's time to go to bed and call it a day, because I am just burned out. And so that has really kind of helped me to kind of put understanding to why that is, and that just, I don't know, it makes a lot of sense in why my brain works the way that it does, and the reason why I not necessarily struggle at work, but I struggle outside of work. And as I always say to people, it's like, yeah, my job takes up a lot of my mental resources and a lot of my energy, so it's difficult for me to do things outside of work, because I need to turn my senses off, if you will. I need to work to recover. Some other things I kind of learned as I've been looking into this is apparently there's this thing called sympathetic dominance, which means that basically the nervous system spends more time in a on alert mode. And when this cycle repeats day after day, the body and mind don't fully complete the stress response cycle. So recovery is partial at best. And then over time, that shows up as fatigue, low resilience, and cumulative exhaustion. Now, someone who's on the low end of autism, apparently this kind of cycle could kind of stand out as like sensory processing differences can amplify baseline stress, noises, interruptions, or context switching may keep the nervous system in a more activated state than for a neurotypical worker. And then social navigation in a workplace, be that meetings, implicit expectations, office dynamics, can cause hidden stressors requiring constant monitoring and adaptation. I could say I see that like I had always worked in the office, and when COVID first hit and they got started sending some of us to work from home, I was fighting it. I was trying to stay in the office because I don't like to mix work with home life. I like to, like, once I get off of work, I'm off work, I'm away from work, and I don't like the mental, physical stress, if you will, of being at home and work stress kind of resonating within the walls of my home, if that makes sense. So I fought it for a very long time. But then we end up getting forced into working from home, and I work from home 5 days a week for several years before they brought us back. I want to say a couple years. They brought us back a couple years ago in a hybrid fashion. And now that hybrid fashion of being in the office 2 days a week is actually really bothering me now because of sensory overload. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of people coming to your desk. It's a lot of, hey, I'm in the middle of this, and someone sees that I'm not on the phone or in a meeting, so then they want to come over and talk to me and shift my attention to something else. So often, a lot of times while I'm at work, I have my earbuds in. And for one, it's so I could, just dial in, focus on what I'm doing. And then also a lot of times people see me with the earbuds in, and sometimes they don't bother me, and it kind of just helps to like just let me focus on one thing, y'all. But that kind of stood out. And then they also say that autistic people often report longer recovery times after stress exposure, sometimes called autistic burnout, when it accumulates. And so essentially this is a stress loop. And it makes a lot of sense, and it helps me to kind of understand where I'm at in the world with a bunch of things, because I do experience that often where I'm just burned out from work, and this has impacted my social life. I have a hard time maintaining extended period. I don't want to say extended periods of friendships. I have friends from childhood that I keep in touch with. But I do have oftentimes where I may go through one of these loops where I may not talk to someone for a couple of weeks. And some people unfortunately take it as, I don't know, disrespect, or they get upset like, oh, you ain't never got time to talk to me. And it's not that. It's just, it's the stressors of I'm burnt out and I need time to recover. And like, as I'm recovering, I can't bring in other sensory overload. And so I find myself being antisocial a lot and just kind of staying in my house. And then, also, like I said, after getting divorced a few years ago, I, for the life of me, can't have a successful dating life because outside of the busy schedule of being a single dad, 50% of the time, my kids being heavily active in basketball, it's practice every other day, it's games every weekend, and even of course on the weeks that I don't have them, I'm still thoroughly engaged in all their basketball and school stuff. And so so I find myself not having a lot of downtime because I'm, a very active father in my kid's life. And then furthermore, when it's like, when I'm done with work and when the kids ain't got basketball, we don't have things going on, I also need these recovery days to just kind of reset my brain, if you will. And it just has made it difficult to date because, other people don't have that same type of schedule, for lack of a better term, or they're the type of person who they're social butterflies and like socially interacting with people gives them energy. So like, oh, hey, I had a stressful day at work and, you know, I need to decompress from that stress at work. So let me hang out, let me talk on the phone, let me go do this thing. And I wish my brain was wired like that, but it's just unfortunately is not. But yeah, I don't have the answers on how to fix this, but having the additional information of what is going on is kind of helping me to at least be able to kind of identify it and then figure out ways to kind of work around it, if you will. And I don't know. It's been an interesting journey. And then lastly, like I said, just again, going back to the hiatus and stress and just the reasons why I have not been able to actively engage in podcasting is quite frankly, it's very difficult going to work day to day and going through these stressors and then trying to maintain life as a single dad outside of work and trying to, you know, do this, that, and the third while I also see in the world and in the U.S. democracy actively dying.
Have you checked all these people's identification cards?
No, we haven't done that. Why would we have done that, G.I.?
To see if there are any known Nazis. If so, they will be dispatched of in short order.
Well, I don't think there are any Nazis here.
That's what a Nazi would say.
You know, it's very difficult. And any of us with a moral compass, I think we're all struggling with this, where you got to go to work and you got to get through your work day without being stressed. And you got to be happy, joy as you communicate with your coworkers and you know, go through all your corporate tropes that we all go through, if you will. And then also, you know, watch democracy crumble outside of where the workplace is just, I don't know. It's a difficult place that we're in. Now, I will say on a positive note, I did finally get to do something fun recently. And I recently caught the Blind Tour. And the Blind Tour featured such artists as Sleazy Easy, Shanoa Xavier, Buffalo Farm, Figgy Baby, and the one and only Damage. Now, those who are unfamiliar with Damage, they are a trans hip hop artist that makes revolutionary, introspective, and very emotionally intelligent music. Now, I was introduced to Damage actually earlier this year when Doechii had talked about how she wanted to see more queer perspectives in hip hop.
Bro, Doechii needs to shut the fuck up. We do not need more queer perspectives in hip-hop. What the fuck does that even mean? Wouldn't that just sound like...
Tell me what you know about the mental prison. Locked up so tight I got dementias in it. Life sentencing. The government want to meddle in my mental business. People feel the need to preach God when they settle in the devil's business. How?
That's what God teaches.
Maybe if you did a little introspection, you want to join in on the insurrection led by a little girl with the biggest death wish. I been calling out for help. Did you get my message? Did you get my text, bitch? Greg, I been killing little kids just because they live in Texas. Tell a bigger they could get to step and give a fuck about the sovereignty of a nation that don't give respect to the people like me and go and give them checks to tell every politician that Damage sent you and they neck is next, bitch. Tell me what you know about prison.
Now, the song was called Prison, and for those of you who've been rocking with the podcast, I actually played Prison on episode 5, and after listening to that record, really liking that record, I ended up stumbling across their self-titled album, which that song was a part of, and I fell in love with the project. Now, this project came out a couple years back, and I am a sucker for an album that feels like a experience and not just a collection of songs. So there are several, you know, I'm a hip hop head. I've been a hip hop head my whole life, and there's several artists that I am big fans of. I think that they're great artists. I think that they make they, you know, have dope verses, they make dope songs, but then I don't really put them in the category as some of my favorite artists because their albums just sound like a collection of songs. It just sounds like you recorded a whole bunch of songs, you put them in a certain order, and then you release that and called it an album. To me, an album is something with a cohesive message statement, and it's just like an experience. And I remember sitting in the gym the first time I listened to it and just being overwhelmed with emotion of like, oh my God, this album is so fucking dope. And like, even though I don't have the same exact experiences as Damage, I have similar pains and similar frustrations and similar just ideas of the world and all that. So I was blown away with the album. Became a super big fan, and then from there, I essentially saw that they had a show coming up in a couple of months in Arizona, and so I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna check that out, and I'm gonna go ahead and buy the tickets to the show. So the show was incredible. In real quick, I gotta say my bad to Sleazy Easy. I showed up late. I was like, I don't know, like 30 minutes late to the show because I picked up a friend that was going with me. So I missed the opening act. So my apologies, Sleazy Easy, that I can't give like a full review of their performance or of them as an artist, but make sure y'all check them out. But I was able to show up and catch the rest of the show after that. And so first off, shouts out to the dynamic Shano and Xavier.
People like me with this red dot. That shit don't apply to me. My history is criminal. Shit, I wasn't there. Said I'm guilty by assassination. I got put in boxes. Yeah, fuck you, ho. Coin, pocket, keep on stuttering. This shit be out. What? Now what can I do for you all? Used to watch way too much on the internet. Fucking up my mood and my intellect. Listen and say I'm got me behind by light years. Funny how they blueprint in my Cinemax. Should I got a couple pieces?
Nets up on the ticket was this hardcore metal trap artist by the name of Buffalo Farm. And now I have never been the person to like listen to metal. I respect all music except country. I respect all music, including metal. And Buffalo Farm's music was highly energetic, and it was a very fun performance to watch and kind of engage with. And shouts out to the people who were mosh pitting. Nets up in the performance was Figgy Baby, and Figgy Baby was also a standout artist during the show.
Oh, it's just the warm-up. Now, I'm a sassy ass bitch. You ask anybody I'm on tour with, they tell you I'm a fucking diva. But most of all, Phoenix, I'm a troublemaker. Yeah. I've been rocking to my own shit like a fan girl. Always in a stand girl. I can use some more stand girl. Sassy as a school girl. Whose girl is this? Even in the man's world. I'm the peanut butter and jam girl. I'm a jam girl. I'm a spicy boy. I smoked the water and I broke the glass. I gripped this road and I slapped it. I eat the whole cherry. Swallow the pit too. Whatever you get to. Watch what the kid do. We don't shoot. Stand 50 on the floor.
Now, Figgy does a great job of mixing like very fun music that you could dance with to these love songs that will pluck at your heartstrings about wanting to find love and just the struggles of relationship, and even introspective music about the state of the world. And they had just released a new EP. I believe it's called Falling in Love at the End of the World. It's an incredible project. I bought the project. They just, the intro on the song is called When the Dust, or the intro on the EP is called Once the Dust Settles. And they just recently released kind of like a stripped down acoustic version of that song.
Figgy, Graham. I've seen a man cry, I've seen a man bleed, I've seen a stone crack, here comes a stampede. I pray for peace once the dust settles, I pray for peace once the, off the bench, the seat is warm, the stage is set, the mask is off, Phantom of the Opera hitting half chords in the go to state, so we out with Steph in my own lane, call my own fouls, own ref.
I went out and bought that too. Big fan of Figgy Baby. Make sure y'all go out and support them. But then after Figgy Baby, then came the main event of the show.
Please proceed to the stage. Please proceed to the stage. Get your ass to the fucking stage. Oh my fucking god, it's starting. Please proceed to the stage. Oh my god, it's starting. Oh my fucking god, it's starting. The set's literally fucking starting. Get your ass to the fucking stage. The damage set is fucking starting.
I don't want to forget this charger. That's part of my things. Phoenix, how the fuck we doing tonight? Y'all ready to hear a brand new album? Let's go! Is anybody in the building queer or trans? Well, bear with me. I wanna look like Hunter Schafer, then I wanna fuck Hunter Schafer. I wanna look like Hunter Schafer, then I wanna fuck Hunter Schafer. Look at that pussy just like I was raised to. Make that money just like I was raised to. Fuck you got mine just like I was raised. She can get violent if I don't get paid. 100 bucks for the face, perky tits, little waist. How's it feel to be God? Physical sin gets erased. Tell them I shit when I get a chance.
Now, Damage's performance was everything I thought it would be. It was high energy, it was introspective, it was emotional, and it was politically charged. Damage performed a lot of records from their upcoming album called Blind, and just the ability that Damage has to have like just this wide range of emotions, of being able to do these super lyrical hip hop records, to these dance records, to these emotional records, to these political statements. Just like the range of Damage is like so fucking dope, and you got to see that in the performance as they, you know, weave through all their records from this upcoming project and from previous projects. Now, there was the emotional part of the set. There's a song from the upcoming album called Should I Stay? And again, it's an emotional song. It's right up there in the alley of the type of songs that I love. And as after the parts, you know, where she raps and the hook and all that, the instrumental goes on for a little bit of time, and it was pretty dope because while the instrumental was going, Damage got off stage and went into the audience and started hugging everyone that was up in the front, just going from person to person, you know, hugging them. And it was funny because I'm watching Damage, and Damage is going through hugging everyone, and then Damage sees me and starts walking over in my direction, and Damage puts their hand out to like kind of dap me up, and I said nah, I put my arms out, and I gave Damage a hug, and I thanked her for everything she did. And it was an emotional record. I was in my feels, and it's like, again, I like that type of music. I think that's part of the reason why, from a I don't know, from an emotional standpoint, I'm a speak for cis men, if you will. I think a lot of cis men are not emotionally intelligent, unfortunately. I think a lot of us are raised in environments where it's like, be a man, you can't cry, don't be no girl, you got to be tough, you got to suck it up. Like, we're taught to hold in our emotions as we grow up, and then we turn 18 and we're released into society. It's like, okay, navigate these emotional landscapes. And that's the reason why a lot of guys are kind of fucked up in their head, if you will, and are fucking monsters to the rest of society. So I think it's very important, for men to go to therapy and learn to deal with those emotions, especially if you grew up in an environment that didn't champion expressing emotions and being in tune with what's going on in you. And furthermore, I think it's important, and even me going through therapy, I think that's part of the reason why I like emotional, introspective music. I like to sit with my emotions, and being comfortable in sitting in uncomfortable emotions and knowing thyself, if you will, I think is what helps you be a better person, and what helps you to not get triggered and have these wild fucking reactions. I think that's the reason why you unfortunately see a lot of violence in the male spectrum, if you will, because a lot of these men are not emotionally intelligent. They have not been taught how to deal with their emotions. And so then when they're triggered in a situation, they then react with violence. And so I think it's very important for us to sit with our emotions, and so on and so forth. But off that soapbox and back to my review of the blind tour. So after that, I think the very next song that they performed after that was the final song from the album. And again, the name of the album is Blind. That's the reason why it's called the Blind Tour. But it's pretty dope because as the intro to the song is playing, the DJ, and shouts out to K Presto. K Presto was super fucking dope. Performing, they were DJing the whole show. There's a couple instances where K Presto came out, played the guitar. Like, it was a fucking incredible performance. But K Presto puts the blindfold on Damage, and then Damage performs their last song, and they go through, the verse is I think it's like a 32 bar verse, if I remember correctly. It's a very long introspective verse, but halfway through the verse, Damage took the blindfold out and threw it in the audience, and I caught it. And that was the first time I've ever been at a concert and somebody threw something in the audience and I caught it. It was fucking dope. So after the performance, I stood in line at the merch booth, and I purchased another shirt from Damage. It was a shirt for the Damage tour, has all the dates on it. And then I was able to get them to sign the blindfold. And so the blindfold is actually in my room. I have one of those Build-A-Bears, and it's a bunny Build-A-Bear with a Phoenix Suns jersey on, and it has the Damage blindfold on, and it says Damage on it. And so super dope. It was a great moment. And like I said, it was a dope fucking show, and I'm fans of all those artists. I'm starting to buy their music. I'm starting to listen to their music. I'm starting to follow them on TikTok and Instagram and sharing all their stuff. And I just want to continue to see dope fucking artists with dope fucking messages get out there, spread their message, and kind of cut through the bullshit that we see from mainstream music and mainstream hip hop. Now, the show that I went to did happen on a very peculiar day, and that day would be September 10th, which coincided with a fairly big news event. And me knowing Damage and knowing the political statements that Damage makes as a wonderful leftist, Damage during their performance did address what happened that day.
sir. But some really interesting shit happened today. I am a believer in liberation by any means necessary. I do not condone senseless violence. I condone all human action with intent, with intentionality, with purpose. So when I say, fuck Charlie Kirk, fuck Charlie Kirk, fuck Charlie Kirk, fuck Charlie Kirk, come on, fuck Charlie Kirk, fuck Charlie Kirk, fuck Charlie Kirk, fuck Charlie Kirk, that's it, fuck Charlie Palestine, free 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 Palestine, fuck Donald Trump, 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 kill all Nazis, 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 kill all Nazis. Alright, so I'm glad we're all friends. Make some noise for yourself. And if anybody disagrees with me, go talk to me after the show.
Now, yeah, September 10th was the day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated while on stage at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, for a Turning Point USA event called the American Comeback Tour. Now, it was interesting, and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm chronically online, but like I was very aware of who Charlie Kirk was, and it was interesting to see how many people was not aware of who Charlie Kirk was. And so same thing to my listeners, those who may, well, I'm pretty sure y'all know who he is now, but Charlie was a polarizing figure, and someone who I think in the future we could look back and say that Charlie was indicative of the times of today. So the people who disliked Charlie felt he was divisive, he was racist, he was misogynistic, he was homophobic, and to be frank, he was a bully who got famous by going to college campuses to cherry pick people to debate with and then only play clips that showed him in a good light. And part of the reason why we know that he was doing that was there's one of those white liberals online who kind of, they originally, I think, got famous off of the Jubilee. It was like one liberal versus 20 conservatives, all those fucking bullshit Jubilee videos that they do, which I won't even go on my soapbox rant about how fucking destructive I think those videos are. But anyway, Dean got popular from there, and then I think Dean, if I'm remembering the order of the events correctly, Dean Withers then kind of took that fame and started going out and debating a lot more. He went to a Charlie Kirk event, got into a debate with Charlie, and kind of roasted, kind of upstaged Charlie in that debate at that college. This was a while back, and while Charlie and his team showed a bunch of clips of the conversations from that day, they didn't show those clips. But then Dean and his people had recorded it and they released it. And then that's when it kind of came to light to a bunch of us. It's like, oh, yeah, Charlie is going to these colleges and he's debating a bunch of people, but he's only showing the things that show him in a positive light. And Charlie, I make this statement to people all the time, and I make the statement to my moms all the time. We need to stop living in this environment where we are, what's the best way to put it? We live in our emotions and we react emotionally because, quite frankly, I feel that conservatives kind of live and strive off of that. We may start a conversation with good intentions to have a debate with someone and to actually try to educate someone. And then the conservatives know, oh, I'll just say something that triggers you, if you will. And then we get our emotions and then we emotionally react. And they're like, yeah, see, I own that lib. You see how triggered they are. You see how emotional they get. You can't even have conversations with them. It will be crazy too, too, because it'll be some shit like, you know, you'll talk about like crime in America, and then you'll be like, oh, well, you know, crime in America is a big problem, and then conservative will be like, yeah, it's because of black people like you, and then people who react emotionally will be like, oh, how dare you say something racist, you fucking piece of shit, and then they'll be like, oh, see, triggered. You see how emotional they get when it's like the person honestly did react emotionally correctly to the person making a bigoted statement towards them. But again, we need to stop falling for this. And quite frankly, I feel like Charlie made a career of that. That was the reason why he would go to colleges, because then you get these young kids who are still early in their ideologies. They're still trying to understand things, but then they're still trying to learn how to understand and control their emotions. And then he would say certain polarizing things that would then get a charge out of them. And then he would maintain his composure, and then he would continue to talk, you know, in a calm and composed manner. And then to the outsider looking in, the person would look at him and be like, oh, he's calm, and so clearly he knows what he's talking about. And then that other person, you know, they're stumbling on their words now because they're emotional, so clearly they don't know what they're talking about. And it is a age-old trick to trick and control people into thinking that someone knows what the fuck they're talking about, because quite frankly, a lot of people aren't educated. A lot of people are followers. They're not leaders. A lot of people want to hear from other people what they're supposed to think and what they're supposed to do. And so Charlie was able to gain a mass following by saying a bunch of stuff that a lot of us felt was bigoted, but he was able to say this bigoted stuff in a calm manner and put in the name of Jesus at the end of it. And then people were like, oh, he's a great Christian. Now, kind of in that same breath, the people who are fans of Charlie viewed him as a free speech beacon of hope who exemplified Christianity. So much so, I even saw this one guy after Charlie passed away saying that if Charlie was alive during biblical times, he would have been Jesus's 13th disciple.
Charlie Kirk was a man of faith. First and foremost, he loved his Lord Jesus. He loved his family. Beautiful wife, beautiful children. Just a remarkable, honorable man that was silenced with this assassin's bullet. I would say if Charlie Kirk lived in the biblical times, he'd have been the 13th disciple. He'd have been the 13th disciple.
Hey, boy, ain't no fucking way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Yeah. Now, my personal take, quite frankly, is that the people who view Charlie Kirk as a free speech beacon of hope that exemplify Christianity, in a sense, they are right in their own capacity. And the reason why they are correct is because modern day Christianity, people don't celebrate Jesus. People don't celebrate his word. They celebrate white supremacy. Now, immediately after shooting, before the killer was identified, Trump immediately came out and labeled it an attack by far left radicals.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
Then you had Nancy Mace coming out saying that the shooter was trans.
This shit ends. Like, enough is enough. And now I have to deal with real safety concerns. It sounds like the shooter was a tranny or pro-tranny. And just because I want to protect women, that I'm worried about getting murdered? Are you fucking kidding me? It's out of control, and enough is enough. And I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to be more vigilant than ever. I'm going to be louder than I've ever been until this shit stops. It's got to stop.
And I was rather confused by both of these statements because it was literally the day that Charlie got assassinated. They didn't have a suspect. They didn't capture anyone, but they were already telling everyone who this person was and who they identified as. You didn't have a fucking shooter. And as per usual, that exact day that all that happened, I was like, dang, this is crazy, because no matter who the shooter is, this is going to directly impact Black and queer people. And I was 100% correct, because the very next day, a bunch of HBCUs had to get closed down because they received bomb threats.
We are now following breaking news about a string of threats at a number of historically Black colleges and universities today. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell is following this for us. What can you tell us, Kelly?
Well, Chris, I think this is at this point in the abundance of caution phase, where universities that are a part of the HBU system, the historically Black colleges, a number of them in Virginia, also in Alabama, saying that they have received threats and therefore taking action to lock down a campus or cancel classes or send out warnings to students and to the university community. Obviously, just one day after the Charlie Kirk assassination, in an environment where we have seen a lot of gun violence and a lot of acting out of dangerous threats where citizens can be inadvertently involved in a dangerous circumstance. This is the kind of thing where universities, as they assess a situation, make a determination for what is best for their community and to try to reduce the potential for any harm. By locking down or canceling classes, it clearly reduces the amount of foot traffic. It allows authorities to follow through on any leads. We have made outreach to different kinds of law enforcement, from the federal to the state level and local communities, as well as the Department of Education. And at this point, we don't have a sense of where this is coming from or how connected it may be. But the fact that these colleges are feeling they need to take action, and in light of the timing, given yesterday's events on a college campus in Utah, there is a sense of wanting to be prudent and to provide members of the community, students, faculty, neighbors of a campus with warning to help them make their best choices. So as we learn more, we will bring it to you. But at this point, there are no injuries. There's no acts of violence that we are aware of. This is in the category of threats and then taking prudent steps.
Now, it took a couple days, but the alleged shooter ended up, actually the dad, if I remember correctly, the dad turned them in, and then the, shooter, went ahead and surrendered, if you will. And the shooter turned out to be a white male from a conservative family. And we still, all as disenfranchised members of society, still face the wrath.
Only in America can a white man get shot by another white man, and then somehow they blame Black people. Like, the fuck do we do? Like,
and that is an example of why we are living in a white supremacist society. When you have a situation, when you have a white person shoot a white podcaster at a white college in a white Mormon state, and as a result, queer and Black people got punished. It's rather insane if you think about it. If you want to think about it, because a lot of y'all don't want to think about it. Now, since that happened, there's been quite a bit of misinformation. First things first, the gruesome videos of Charlie Kirk being shot in the neck circulated rapidly on the internet. it was very interesting that we were all able to see that video, considering that there are certain protocols in place to make sure that when a very highly sensitive video is shown online, it does not show up elsewhere.
This is going to sound conspiratorial, so let me explain why it's not. The fact that millions of us were forced to watch a violent political assassination across every major social media platform last week was an intentional choice by these platforms, and they have a reason that they wanted you to see it. I work in politics, and I've spent years trying to regulate big tech companies with a special focus on content moderation, so let me explain to you exactly how I know that they wanted you to see this. First, we have to go back to 2019, after the Christchurch massacre was live streamed on Facebook. People were rightfully horrified to see that kind of violence on their Facebook feed, and so the campaign for the GIF-CT was born, known as the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism. This was a PR nightmare for these social media companies, so the pressure campaign worked, and they all signed on to be members of the GIF-CT. One agreement to be part of the GIF-CT is that they all have to share data on videos and images that have been labeled to be violent or to violate community guidelines. So, if a violent video gets flagged on Twitter, it should automatically get flagged and taken down from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. This has been the case since 2019, and overall, people have been seeing far fewer violent videos across their general timelines. It's also key to note that when a video is flagged on the GIF-CT database, it's supposed to come down off these other platforms automatically, so if it doesn't, someone had to intervene. The graphic video of Charlie Kirk getting assassinated meets all of the classifications for something that would be in the GIF-CT database and thus should have automatically come down off of all of these platforms. The fact that the video is still being widely circulated tells us that these tech companies wanted you to see it. That poses another big question, which is why. I have a theory, which is that all of these big tech companies are mostly run by unaccountable right-wing billionaires who only stand to benefit from stoking the flames of division in this country. Studies show that people engage with social media more when they're fighting and when they're angry, and politics is a really great way to get people riled up and engaged so that you can keep them on the platform, serve them advertisements, and keep making money. But we also know that these big tech billionaires are colluding with Donald Trump, and he has a concerted interest in everybody seeing this video, being horrified, and being able to use it as pretext to go after his political enemies, even if they had nothing to do with the assassination. While some may accuse me of being conspiratorial, anyone who thinks we weren't seeing this for a reason isn't paying attention.
Now, in the days before they arrested the suspect, Tyler Robinson, there was a bunch of false accusations about the shooter themselves being transgender. Now, this pattern has played out over a bunch of shootings over the past couple of years, where before authorities even release the information about the suspect, you have politicians, you have podcasters, commentators putting forward conspiracy theories, which often are debunked, but that's a bit of the challenge. Is once people flood the timeline with information, a lot of people's brains, to be frank, aren't dynamic. A lot of people, the first bit of information that they get in their head is the information that's stuck in their head, and it takes a lot of effort to then unravel that initial thought, that initial idea out of their head to actually put correct information in. And I think that a lot of prominent figures are aware of this, and that is the reason why when something happens, they rush to be the first one to put their message out so they can get their agenda out, because quite frankly, there's so much going on in the world. There's a lot of people who are going to read that initial headline, they're going to come to the assumption that that's the truth, they're going to move on with their lives, and then other people, as they get more information, they're not going to be able to disseminate that, that first thing was just a headline, a bit of information, and now we have more accurate information, and that is the reason why the opinion on the situation is changing. We saw this directly with COVID. When COVID first came out, there was a lot of the scientific information that we had on COVID when it first came out was limited, and so science and medical community, they put out one statement about COVID and about the reactions and about a bunch of different things. Then as time progressed and they got more case studies, the sample size got larger. They were then able to update their information on it, and then they were able to give clearer information about what was going on with COVID and some of the dangers with it, so on and so forth. But then there's a lot of people, and quite frankly, I'm not trying to, call anyone out of their name, but there's a lot of people on the conservative side who they could not then take in that new information. They were like, hey, you said this one thing, and then now you're saying this other thing, so that must mean that the first time you were lying. And it's like, no, that's not what that means. That's kind of how science works. Science is not you find an immediate answer that is indefinite. Hey, we found how the universe is created today, and then that information will never change. No, science is with the collection, with the sample size of information that we have come to this conclusion. And then as the sample size grows and we get more and more information, our conclusion may change. It does not mean that we were lying in the beginning. It means that we have more information now, and so our opinion has changed. We have progressed to new information when a lot of conservatives are very traditional and very stuck in, no, it was this way in the beginning, it has to be that way. And not to, go off on a tangent, but that is quite frankly the reason why I think there are a lot of conservative people who don't like the rise of these disenfranchised groups. They don't like the idea of women in power. They don't like the idea of there being more than two genders. They don't like these ideas because they didn't grow up with these ideas. And if they didn't grow up with these ideas and now people are saying new stuff, it must be because they're lying. It can't be that because we learn new information. It can't be that, we develop new thoughts and ideas. And then honestly, a lot of the things too is not even new ideas. It drives me nuts when I hear this shit about, the vaccines cause autism. We never saw autism until the vaccines. And it's like, no, autism has always been around. We just didn't have a actual fucking word to clarify this complicated situation. The same thing with transgender people. It's the media nowadays and the gay agenda. That's the reason why we have so many gays and transgender people. And newsflash, gay people and transgender people have been around longer than the Bible. And that's a tough pill for any of y'all to swallow. And y'all don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. But back to the topic at hand, going back to the disinformation after Charlie Kirk got assassinated. The shooter, it took apparently 33 hours for them to find the shooter. And then they had originally reported that the ammunitions had messages related to the transgender community engraved into it. But the messages actually came out to be more anti-fascist and referred to online meme culture. At the end of Charlie Kirk did his debate, and the last words were very telling to me. So the last person who was questioning him, talking to him, said, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years? And Charlie responded, too many. And that's a quick and easy way to deflect, because even if the answer was one, he can kind of deflect from that by just saying too many and, not having the actual information and not getting put into a corner where he says something that is incorrect that then that person can debunk. That's a very good and easy deflection to just be like too many, because even if it was one, that was too many. But the student had responded that there was 5 and proceeded to ask how many mass shooters there had been in total during that time frame. And then Charlie said, counting or not counting gang violence. And then that's when the shot was fired. So it was interesting that the last conversation that Charlie had was they were talking about mass shootings in America, and Charlie was putting the blame on trans people and on black people.
I want to watch that execution. That'll make my day better. I want to see him on a public block and get him be publicly executed. And I think that would be justice. You think children should have... You should see it. What is the age? At what age should you start to see public executions?
Charlie Kirk deserves as much grace as a slain gangster rapper who has no record of having slain anyone except on their records. Yet y'all use their lyrics to justify why they had it coming. Y'all say they live by the sword, die by the sword, even though their sword was only words. Yet, because they promoted the very violent culture that came back to take them out, y'all call it karma, even though that's a gross corruption of what karma actually means, but we'll get into that in another video. Oh, but now that Charlie Charlie Kirk, who used his platform to advocate that human beings should be publicly executed in front of children, in person, on television, online, as an initiation. Now that Charlie Kirk's own children have been initiated with his own public execution, in person, online, on television, suddenly y'all are defenders of free speech. Now it's suddenly not okay to respond to words with violence. Y'all having a sudden change of heart now that it's Charlie Kirk's whose verbal chickens have come home to roost. I know that his name's actually Kirk, not Clerk, but I'm only saying that because I, first of all, know that it's annoying, and also I'm trying to figure out who's only watching the video in the first few seconds or just responding to the headlines. Charlie Kirk was a YT gangster rapper. A YC, or YH if you prefer. All I'm saying is he deserves the same respect that y'all give other gangster rappers, his counterparts, those who died without having killed anyone for the words that they spoke. But hey, Charlie Kirk died of the scourge of the white-on-white violence epidemic. I have no dog in this fight. I'm just a straight shooter who, rather than rubbernecking at the issue, is giving a full-throated endorsement for fairness to others, be they in our neck of the woods, the same political vein or not. We out here.
Now, according to the Gun Violence Archive, there has been 5,221 mass shootings since 2015. And looking in the spectrum of trans people, there has only been 5 trans shooters that have been identified, and that would account for 0.1% of mass shootings in the last 10 years. Now, when it comes to Charlie Kirk being the only person that got killed, that wouldn't fall into the mass shooting, because mass shootings is when it's like 4 or more people killed. That's when it's labeled as a mass shooting. But then when you switch over to political or domestic violence since 2018, 22 of the perpetrators have been transgender. And so that makes up for 0.005% of the approximate nearly 500,000 shootings have been done by trans people. But the government has been very vocal and very strategic in all of the latest shootings since Trump has gotten in office. They're shifting the blame over to trans people. And I quite frankly, I believe it's being done on purpose. And this is the thing. I have warned quite a few people. You have to be careful when disenfranchised people are being attacked, because basically how you treat disenfranchised people is how you would treat the rest of your people if you're legally allowed to. So you have to be careful when you have the government punch down on people, because they're punching down on those people to see what they can get away with, and they're seeing what they can themselves implement to then be able to do to you. And I need people to keep that in mind when you see other groups attacked and you don't give a fuck because you yourself are not getting attacked. It just means that they haven't gotten around to you just yet. Now, this whole Charlie Kirk situation has, the reason why I said that, I don't know, 20, 50 years in the future, we're going to be able to look back at this as a pivotal moment and a real good indicator of just where we were at in the times. This event and the backlash on social media has turned into a gross representation of what freedom of speech is, and also what cancel culture truly is. Now, conservatives saw people making jokes about Charlie and saying things negative about him, and essentially started documenting and screenshotting all of the memes and all of the jokes, and even just some of the stuff of people, just saying things that were not, oh, he was the greatest person ever, and in Jesus' name, I hope he, is, I don't know, whatever Christians say. They, if you didn't say that about Charlie, they were mad about it. And they even created this website called Charlie's Murderers that doxed a ton of people. And essentially, you would go to the website, and it was just one page as you scroll through They were taking screenshots of people on social media. They were posting their faces on there. They were posting any information that they could find about the people. I saw one person, they had posted what he had said on like Twitter or something like that, and then they found the guy's LinkedIn profile, and they posted his LinkedIn profile so you can see where he worked at. There was another person who had posted something on like Facebook, and I'm assuming this was someone personally knew them, because then they posted their address, and like it was just a website doxing people. And as you just scroll down, you can see all of this personal information about these people. Now, doxing is highly illegal, and someone must have come in to warn them, because then within like a day or so, that website got redirected to something else, just saying, oh, well, you know, if you have more information, like send it over here, as opposed to them putting it out publicly. Because again, hopefully those people who got doxed on that website, hopefully they took a screenshot, and hopefully they're in the process of making a massive lawsuit and suing the shit out of that person that doxed all those people who were on that website. Now, after Charlie Kirk's death, they said that they were going to continue the podcast and continue his legacy, if you will. And J.D. Vance went on his website, and J.D. Vance, the vice president of America, got on Charlie's podcast and urged citizens to tell on their fellow Americans if they saw them speaking ill about Charlie. And the crazy part about it is people got fired. And some of the people that got fired didn't even necessarily say anything negative about Charlie. There were a bunch of people who were not conservatives who simply posted videos of certain things that Charlie said, or posted tweets of things that Charlie said. And those people got fired as well, because people would be like, oh, they're spreading his message without context. And that is amazing that you guys can consider the things that Charlie would say as not hate speech, but then when people post his exact words, be it in a video clip or be it in a tweet, then all of a sudden it became hate speech. It's almost as if it's possible that his speeches were fueled with hate speech. Me being someone who was on the direct side, if you will, of being targeted by some of the stuff that Charlie said, I think that I have the right as an American to say that I felt as if a lot of his viewpoints were racist. There are clips of Charlie saying that black people should be grateful that slavery saved them from Africa. He said that black people were better off during Jim Crow era, and essentially we committed less crimes during the Jim Crow era. And he also had mentioned, when talking about Michelle Obama, that black women steal jobs from white men. And the reason why he considered that, of them stealing these jobs from the white man, because he considered that they didn't have the brain processing power to do those jobs. So clearly they stole it for white men, because white men have the brain processing power to do those jobs. And if they are not getting those jobs and black women are getting those jobs, it's clearly because of DEI. It's unqualified people getting these jobs. And it's overall the backlash and the way that conservatives have acted is very ironic to me, because me, again, as a black man, over the past it's been since the beginning of time, but especially over the past 15 years, I saw memes of people Trayvoning. After Trayvon got murdered, there was memes that you would see online. It would be white kids that would have a hoodie on, and they would lay on the floor dead with Arizona iced tea and a Skittles next to their body, and it would say Trayvoning. I saw George Zimmerman become a celebrity, and I saw the gun that he killed Trayvon with, he auctioned it off for hundreds of thousands of dollars. He would often go to signings, and he would sign bags of Skittles. Like, they turned the killing of Trayvon into a whole fucking meme. I saw, Philando Castile, who was a man who was in the passenger seat with his wife and with his kids. I saw him get murdered when the cops, the wife is the one driving, but when the cops pulled over, they were more concerned about Philando in the passenger seat, which he was confused about, because it's like, if this is a routine traffic stop, Like, why are you asking me questions? Like, typically, you know, you're asking the person who's driving for their license and for proof of insurance. Like, it was just confusing. Like, why are you talking to the person in the passenger seat? And then they asked a question that I have been asked a bunch of times too, when I have been pulled over. Hey, do you have any weapons on you? And Philando Castile, who was a legal gun owner, had told them, yes, I do have a gun on me. And then they pulled out their gun and they shot and killed the man in front of his child. And I saw people online say that, you know, fuck him. Like, he deserved that because he scared that cop or whatever. I don't know what else he could have did in that situation, because if he lied and said that he didn't have a gun, and then if they further, you know, searched and then found a gun that he hadn't identified previously, they also would have fucking shot and killed him. You know, Sandra Bland, we as African Americans, we saw Sandra Bland driving down the street, getting pulled over, and a cop being overly aggressive with her, and her being angry in a way that we have seen from plenty of Americans. I have seen plenty of videos of Caucasian people getting pulled over and the cops asking them questions, and the Caucasian person being very direct and like, oh, just give me my fucking ticket and let me go on my day. Like, we've seen that plenty of times, but in the case of Sandra Bland, that led to her end up getting arrested and mysteriously dying in jail, and then seeing a whole bunch of fucking people then go online and say, well, if she just shut the fuck up and comply, that wouldn't happen to her. And so we as African Americans have seen that month after month after month online. And for the first time, conservatives had that violence on their doorstep and saw the way the other side reacted. And they were furious, and they wanted to cancel all of those people for having the audacity to not sympathize with someone that they looked up to, when in the same breath, that same sympathy and empathy and that same love was never given to any of us online over the past fucking 15 years. We saw George Floyd get murdered on fucking camera, and someone like Charlie Kirk, you know, made a career off of saying, oh yeah, that knee in his neck that, you know, made him unconscious, that wasn't the reason why he died. It was he had fentanyl in his system. He was a fucking drug addict, so he was a scumbag. Like, these are literally his words, and people are repeating his words, and we are being punished for it. Which, again, if you don't think that that is not a sign of white supremacy being the religion of this country, I don't know what you're paying attention to. I don't know what your algorithm is showing you. We also, I mean, earlier this year, we saw the Minnesota lawmaker. We saw some Republican guy go in and fucking murder her. And there was like a politician that posted a screenshot from the Ring camera where the guy had a mask on. There was this Republican guy who had said something to the extent of, oh, I know what I'm dressing up as Halloween. Like, this was a political assassination, and people made jokes about it. And they even recently asked Trump about that political assassination, and he pretended like he had never heard of the woman.
I am truly stunned. You just have to watch this video. Donald Trump was asked if he should have lowered the flags to half-staff for Melissa Hortman, the Democratic lawmaker who was killed in her home with her husband over the summer by a Trump supporter, and he responded by saying, "Who is that? I'm not familiar with who you're talking about." Just take a look.
In retrospect, given all of the moving ways that this White House has paid tribute to Charlie Kirk, right, do you think it would have been fitting to lower the flags to half-staff when Melissa Hortman, the Minnesota House Speaker, was gunned down by an assassin as well?
I'm not familiar. The
Minnesota House Speaker,
What?
a Democrat, was assassinated this summer.
Well, if the governor had asked me to do that, I would have done that. But the governor of Minnesota didn't ask me. I didn't. I wouldn't have thought of that.
He had no idea who she is. A Democratic lawmaker gunned down in her home with her husband and their dog, and Donald Trump had no idea who she is. It just shows you the double standard that Donald Trump has, where if something happens to his side, he'll be all over it. He'll even suggest going after Democrats because of it. But if something happens to a Democrat, well, his response is clear as day. Who? Who is that? I'm sick and tired of people like Trump trying to take the moral high ground when this is who they are.
But yet the same group of people who champion free speech, and every time they would say something racist or bigoted, they'd be like, oh, you guys are trying to kill comedy. Why can't we be funny? The left doesn't want people to be funny anymore. They're such snowflakes and they get triggered. But now that death was at the conservative doorstep, now that they were scared, now that they were the ones that were impacted by something, now their opinion about what free speech has changed. Now they were the victims, and now they did not like being on the receiving end of these jokes. Then the next thing that kind of came to light after that whole situation was ABC yanked Jimmy Kimmel's show basically indefinitely after he made a comment about Charlie Kirk.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
The ABC spokesperson essentially said that Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preemptively suspended indefinitely. And representatives from Jimmy Kimmel at the time of this recording hadn't necessarily come out to say anything or respond to CNN's request for speaking. But that decision essentially came hours after the Trump administration was responsible for basically pressuring ABC. So at least two different major owners of ABC affiliated stations basically said that they would, suspend the show, if you will. And it was because Trump essentially threatened to remove the licenses or threatened to revoke licenses for ABC, which would then, make them not be able to use their programming. And this is the part where words have meanings, and it's one of those things where for years we would see conservatives come out and conservatives would say something racist or something that was homophobic, and then people would get mad and say something back, and the conservatives would be like, oh, that's my freedom of speech, I can say whatever I want, freedom of speech. And freedom of speech doesn't mean that you get to say anything without consequences. Freedom of speech means that the government cannot silence you, but the government essentially silenced Jimmy Kimmel. He said something that they didn't like, that they deemed negative against their administration and against the followers of their administration, and then they directly got involved with making sure that he was silenced and not able to say that. And that is the infringement on freedom of speech that you guys for so long have been saying that you're fighting to protect. Now, I also saw some people online talking about how, you guys were all about cancel culture, but now that it happened to Jimmy, you guys don't like cancel culture. And same thing, this is a gross comparison also. And one of the people who I saw say that was actually Roseanne Barr. And the thing that people need to take into consideration and kind of always remember, we live in a capitalistic society and we live in a free market, and Republicans especially are very big on a free market. They want anyone to have the ability to have a job and to be able to create businesses, and then the market is free, and you as a consumer, you can go to whatever company you want and spend your dollars with the company that you like their product or you like their company in general. That is what the free market is. You know, it's not that, oh, hey, if you want apples, you can only get it from this one store. If you want to watch, this type of programming, it can't be a monopoly where all this programming routes to one company. Like, it's a free market. Everyone needs to have open opportunities to all be able to get some of this money by, putting out these products and, various things like that. Now, with the free market, it does also mean that if I enjoy this product or I enjoy this company, and if they do something that I don't like, or if I don't like the product anymore, I don't have to watch and support it anymore. I can take my money elsewhere. And in the situation with Roseanne Barr, back in May of 2018, she posted a racial tweet about former Obama advisory Valerie Jarrett, where basically the tweet compared Valerie, saying that she looked like an ape. And a bunch of people online got upset and was like, yo, that is highly fucking racist for you to call a black woman, basically saying a black woman looks like a monkey. And so ABC saw the backlash, saw a lot of people getting angry, and then they quickly stepped in and they removed Roseanne from her show. And Roseanne is trying to compare the Jimmy Kimmel situation to her situation, and the two situations cannot be compared. ABC saw Roseanne tweet something. The free market worked, as people were like, oh, hey, if that's how ABC is getting down, I'm not rocking with them anymore. I'm going to go elsewhere. And then due to that backlash, ABC themselves decided to step in and do something to not impact their bottom line and to keep money coming in. In the Jimmy Kimmel situation, again, Jimmy Kimmel said something, and while there were people online that are conservatives who got upset, ABC didn't make their decision because of the free market and because of what the people who watched the program said. They responded based off of what the government said that they were going to do. That's the infringement on freedom of speech. And it's hard debating with these people because it seems like they don't care what words mean. They headline everything. They soundbite everything. A new word, a new term will come out, and then they won't actually dive into understanding the nuance and the true definition of it. And then they just run with it and they're against it. And then they grossly compare it to other things that happen. And it's like, you're not even using it correctly. And that's black people have been saying that about woke. Like, what the fuck is woke when it comes to conservatives? Woke within the black community started decades ago, and basically it was meaning, having your third eye open and, just being woke and aware and present in the moment and making sure that you pay attention to things. And then somehow the conservatives turn woke into meaning like minorities or something. I don't know, because like, if you ask a conservative who hates woke what woke is, they can't really describe it. And it's because it's a dog whistle. It's a catch-all term for disenfranchised groups or disenfranchised positive thinking. That is what woke is to them. And again, it's them taking something and not understanding it, and them rallying up all of their people on their side to be upset about this one ideology that they don't fucking understand at all, and then grossly using the word incorrectly non-fucking stop. And I mean, to be frank, it's something that you are allowed to do, I guess, if you're the dominant society, because if you're the dominant society, why the fuck would you care about getting into the nuance or getting clear descriptions of things that don't directly impact you? You get to kind of be on the outside and hear, 2 seconds of a 5-minute conversation, and then, use your privilege to then be able to talk down about that whole group without not having full understanding of what the fuck was going on. So, I don't know. It's crazy. But like I said, we at times try to go back and forth and argue with these people, but at this point, it's kind of doesn't matter, because they choose to not understand it because while, again, black, brown, and queer people have been facing discrimination since the beginning of time, they have sat back and always wanted to be the victim. I think a lot of these people, and especially some of the moderates that you see that, oh, well, I'm not really political, I'm in the middle. The reason why these people are in the middle typically is because they don't 100% agree with conservatives and Republicans and some of those ideologies over there, but they don't want to have those difficult conversations with their friends and family. They want to be able to go to Thanksgiving and have a good time without having a tough conversation. They don't want to, dive into what's really going on and then no longer like their mother or their grandfather for these racist ideologies. They just want to kind of coast in the middle because while they don't really agree with this other side, they don't want to alienate their loved ones. They want to be able to just kind of be in the middle and be, cool with their racist family members and be cool with this black person that they go to work with or, so on and so forth. They just want to ride the middle and not really upset anyone. And, that is a bit of the challenge. And the people who are on the far right, if you will, they are soaking all of this up because essentially Trump got in office and told them that it was okay to be hateful and told them that, hey, you being white, you are actually the victim. America, they're trying to take America away from you. And I'm trying to make it great again by putting you back in power because you are the victim right now. And a lot of people flock to his side. And meanwhile, we're seeing his administration stripping rights away from disenfranchised groups, and you all are happy and giddy because this woke movement is finally coming to an end. There's a website called the Project 2025 Tracker, and we are 8 months into Trump's first year in office, and they have already completed 47% of the items that are in Project 2025. And so while Trump can continue to say that he has no idea what Project 2025 is, someone in his administration clearly does because they have almost completed half of the stuff, and they are not even a full calendar year into this administration. And the thing that I've tried to warn people is that you need to realize that while they're taking the rights from us, you all are going to be impacted by these laws. We have already seen that where it's like, oh, yeah, we got to deport all these illegal immigrants. And we saw American citizens get deported. And then while there are a lot of people from the dominant society who don't care about that because they're not getting deported, ain't no Europeans getting rounded up. It's all, again, black and brown people who are some of them, may be here illegally. Some may be in the process of legally getting their visas. Others are U.S. citizens and getting deported. There was even a story about a Native American who got deported. Like, wrap your brain around how fucking insane that is that a Native American got deported. We saw the whole situation with Hyundai where ICE went in and fucking rounded up those 500 people from Hyundai, and those were a bunch of Asian people who were here legally on work visas trying to put together this Hyundai manufacturing plant that was going to bring thousands upon thousands of jobs. And the thing that is interesting too is it was literally when Trump got in office and with the tariffs and all that, Trump was like, hey, you companies who are manufacturing outside of America, you need to bring jobs to America if you want to continue to work with us. And Hyundai, which is a Asian company, listened to that and was like, oh, hey, yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll go do some business with you guys. And they brought business over here and you guys punished them and arrested them and attempted to deport them after directly telling them to come here and do that. That is going to directly impact a lot of these companies from coming over here and wanting to do work with us. And that is only going to further divide us as the world, if you will, is going to further alienate America and make it more and more difficult for us to compete in the free market of the world. We're already seeing China and Russia and North Korea come together, and you have a whole bunch of people who used to do these foreign trades with America, and they're like, oh, yeah, we don't like those tariffs, so we're going to go over here. And then going back to the deportation, you had a whole bunch of, people from the dominant society who were like, oh, yeah, we want to see all these people get deported. And then we have a whole bunch of farms who they're like, oh, my God, I don't have any workers because all my workers are getting deported or are afraid to come to work. And it's like, yeah, this is what you voted for. You told them to get rid of all those people And they got rid of all those people, and you can't find anybody to work for the pennies that you're giving these fucking people. And now you're mad and you're like, hey, someone come save me. There's no one to save you because you made your bed and now you're lying in it and you're upset. You got what you voted for and you are still upset because you thought that it was just going to impact a bunch of minorities and it was not going to impact you. And the thing that I really, 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 really need everyone to understand is there is way more of us than it is of them. But the reason why they're winning and they continue to win, because we keep fighting with each other. We keep fighting left versus right and black versus white and gay versus straight, when the real fight is a class fight of the rich and wealthy versus the middle class and the poor. There was a report recently how I think the wealthiest people own like $7.8 trillion of the money that is out there. And it literally has damn near doubled in the past 8 years. And that's the part that I need you guys to understand is there's not infinite money out there. There's a finite amount of money. And while we continue to fight with each other, they keep passing these rules and they keep creating these monopolies where all the money is staying within them and their billionaire friends, and they're just raking up money. And meanwhile, it's harder and harder and harder for us to survive. And we need to wake up because, once again, it is way more of us than it is of them. And if we don't fucking wake up, eventually it's going to be too late. Because as we're seeing, you know, we have people working 2, 3, 4 jobs, working 60 hours a week to afford groceries and their mortgage, and they're barely getting by. And you know what? If you lose your job, you become homeless, you go to jail. Or like the dude on Fox News said, he was like, hey, maybe we should start killing these homeless people. So if you can't afford your mortgage and groceries and you end up out on the streets, Fox News, at least one of their correspondents, wants you dead.
They have given billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why?
You won't be able to say anything critical about the government either because they're censoring free speech and they're training their minions to snitch on anyone who says something critical of them. We saw that with the Jimmy Kimmel situation. And you won't be able to head outside and protest because they have National Guards in the cities. And you know what? You guys were so concerned about the left defunding the police when Donald Trump himself has actually defunded the police. He has taken money from the police and he is shifting money into ICE because he does not want police out there. He wants ICE out there because ICE is going to do what the government tells them to do. And these are untrained people who are just going to do whatever they're told, and they will break laws, and they will break laws on behalf of the government because they are protected by the government. And that is the reason why these motherfuckers are wearing masks, because they're going out doing this horrible shit and then going back to their day-to-day life and acting like they're not part of these horrible fucking organizations that are breaking a bunch of laws and just capturing a bunch of people and ripping kids out of people's arms, and people are, you know, fucking at court working through their visa things to get their green card situated, and they're pulling these people out where they're legally trying to do the things that you have been telling them to do. And at the end of the day, I need Americans to understand we are slowly turning into 1940s Germany, and you're allowing it. A lot of y'all are allowing it because all you see is that you're owning the libs and you're killing woke. Meanwhile, you're actually giving up your freedoms to fascism. I want y'all to keep this in mind that taking a look at Germany in the 1940s, after World War I, the country was left with this deep economic hardship. There was a bunch of social unrest and just feelings of humiliation based off of the peace terms that happened. And many of the citizens, they wanted stability, they wanted pride, they wanted solutions to all the unemployment, the poverty, and everything that was going wrong in Germany. And you had the leaders of the Third Reich, and you had Hitler, who used powerful propaganda. They used promises of making their nation great again. They scapegoated a bunch of minorities were the reason why all the problems were actually happening in the country. And step by step, democratic institutions were undermined, first through legal changes, and then by silencing critics, and then by controlling the press. And then because each shift seemed like a response to a crisis or a path towards strength, people did not do anything. They just chose to overlook it. And then before they knew it, they were enabling a system that concentrated power and eliminated freedoms. And that is how Hitler rose to power. And that is how the Holocaust happened. And we're seeing that exact thing happen in America. If you don't see that, it's because you are letting your privilege blind you. And the same thing is going to fucking happen to you. One day you're going to wake up and realize that you were nets. Think about it.
Sir, I don't think anybody here would deny that when you send your chickens out in the morning from your barnyard, those chickens will return that evening to your barnyard, not your neighbor's barnyard. I think this is a prime example of the devil's chickens coming back home to roost. That the chickens that he sent out, the violence that he's perpetrated in other countries here and abroad, be it 4 children in Birmingham or Medgar Evers or Lamont Grove in Africa, I think this same violence has come back to claim one of their own. Now, being an old farm boy myself, chickens coming home to roost never made me sad. In fact, it's only made me glad.
You don't get freedom peacefully. Freedom is never safeguarded peacefully. Anyone who is depriving you of freedom isn't deserving of a peaceful approach by the ones who are being deprived of their freedom. The only way you can have peace is to eliminate those injustices, and the American white man is not going to eliminate them. He's going to talk that pretty talk, but he'll still continue to practice those inhuman deeds.